Lauren, in a while. Take this off. Take the headphones off. Let's do a quick test. Let's do. Testing 1, 2, 3. Right, and you ladies can all hear me, can you, so far? Yes, Lauren, it's been too long, hasn't it? Hey, hello, Carol from last week. Carol, USA. Vincenzo, we can't see you. Obviously, a man of very dark. Oh. So, this is when it gets good. Right, lots of people logging on. Screen. So let's get. So Lawrence, how's the sound on here?
Yeah, good for me.
Yeah, not too echoey.
No, sounds good.
Okay. No, I'm in a holiday cottage sort of thing, so I've brought like.
Very professional background. I like it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's just a curtain, but also I've got my podcaster mic with me. I've got a couple of cushions around here. And it's still like it's like That's all right.
I'm in a wind tunnel at the moment.
Yeah, you do look like it. It's like, what's going on?
It's 34 degrees and I need a fan.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, we were in the West Country and actually Cornwall, we were surprised. We left home and it was 34. We got down here, it's like 21.
Yeah.
So you can actually see.
Nicer.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer. Although colder in the bars. And you're like, oh, okay, great. All right, Avery, you could switch on the light, love. I'll pay 10p for the Alecki meter.
I know I've got all the blinds down because it's too hot. It's 36 degrees in the house.
That's mental.
It's too hot.
Yeah, well, I can see. And I was just saying to Lauren that we drove down, and as we drove down, like every 10 miles, it sort of dropped a degree. So down in Cornwall, it's only like 21, 22 degrees or something.
I might relocate then.
Yeah.
Move to Cornwall.
Let's do that. There you go. I'm surrounded by cushions and things like that, so. Right, Katie, a bit warm there as well.
Hello. Oh, I'm baking. I'm baking.
We're about 23 degrees here, so it's actually all right, because it was the first night's sleep we got here when we got here, I suppose.
Oh, it's up in 30 here.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's nasty, isn't it?
Yeah, I just I don't do very well unless I have a sun lounger and a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are we doing for time? Let me just. How are we doing? Right, we've got a couple more minutes. So, Katie, what I thought we'd do today with the chat side, we'll get lots of questions in, but we'll probably do those. So I'll do the first bit, go through LinkedIn, and then if you need to interrupt, but when I'm doing the screen share, because I'm on the laptop, it'll fill my screen so I won't see people. So you might either ask questions or maybe if need be, we go through the questions at the end, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good idea, yeah. I'll keep an eye on any questions that come through.
Yeah, and then you think it would directly relevant to that slide and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So jump onto the slides in a minute. So yeah, the only crazy one here is John Fulton with a lovely picture, and it could actually be him, but it's like him with his like, come on the Fulton, we know you're there somewhere, looking hot like everybody else. Cool. Right.
Mike looking melted down more like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think a lot of people are. It's just like, you got Lauren who's just saying, I'm in a wind tunnel, but I don't care because I'm just so hot. It's like, it's horrible. So I'm doing this off the laptop remotely.
I feel like a puddle of lemon. Wait.
Well, tell me about it. It's just saying I'm just down at this sort of holiday to trying to do it, but surrounded by cushions to try and deaden the noise sort of thing. So. Right. Well, people can catch up because, I like to keep these things to time each week. So welcome. This week is about LinkedIn. Obviously, last week was the great stuff from Katie about CVs and all that stuff. And this week, we're on to LinkedIn. CVs, while it can be quite static and everything else, LinkedIn is alive. You can change it in a second. You can create it much more. You can be more creative with it. So what we'll do, I'll exit the full screen here. I'm going to go to the presentation. Boom. So tell me when you can do it. I'll go. So let's do this. I'll do share screen. Now we did this quite well before, didn't we? Aren't sharing options. Only the host. Great. Katie, tell me you can see this. Boom. Can everyone see that? Lovely. Now we're talking, and then function F5. Wish I was doing it on my laptop. I'm not there. Slideshow. Current slide. Yeah, that filling everybody's screen.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. So LinkedIn Masterclass. I thought we'd use this as we have done before. Tells you a little bit more. You know who I am, obviously. All that. First of all, kicking off, powerful headline. You know, when you go there, we'll come up to the photos in a minute. But one of the key things we want is to grab someone's attention. Every time you read a newspaper, someone grabs your attention. They don't just, you know, it's nice and bland or anything else. It's very specific. So you're a treasury manager. You want to tell them what you're good at. So, you know, strategic project management, IT2, some of those things you might want to bring out. Not just, I'm group treasurer at. Because guess what? There's 5,000 other treasurers out there. Tell them something about yourself. Now, we've just given some mini examples there. There are far better ones, and we'll come back to that as we write through here and move through it. Because it forms part of your brand. And again, Jeff Bezos, you know, knows a thing or two, the billionaire. And I've said to you guys before that your brand is what other people say about you, not when you're in the room, but also what they think and what they feel about you as well. So actually, when you present yourself on your LinkedIn profile, one of the key things you want to be able to do is actually influence what they think about you as they read through it. You know, is this person a capable treasurer? Is this person going to be able to run our stuff and, you know, actually make a difference in this team? So next section on we will send these all to you, by the way, so you don't have to scribble too many notes. It's more to get a bit of an idea. So who's reading your profile and who do you want to read your profile? So if they're going through, particularly this time, COVID, and people are, you know, keen to get a new role and everything else, this is one of the things you need to think about. So you need to make it easy for them to contact you. You need to, you know, jump out at them if you are a treasurer that is particularly interested, or a treasury manager particularly interested in working in New Zealand or working in America, and you're based there or want to do that. Say, I have a passion for working in New Zealand. I have a passion. Actually tell them, make it that easy. Raw content. Who are you? What are your skills, accomplishments, what are your values? Again, we're going to talk about in a second the opener, the elevator pitch, call to action, evidence as we go through the summary. This is the opener. It's a bit detailed here, so I'm not going to jump into it in too much detail, but what it is trying to tell them something about yourself in the summary section that isn't just a copy and paste of your CV. There's nothing worse, is there, Katie? Just seeing you know, all their common duties that are in their summary, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I think it has to stand out a little bit more, and then you save that kind of achievement piece that we discussed last week for when you highlight your most recent experience.
Yeah, and again, victory dance. It's sort of telling people about why you're really good. Now, this is my elevator pitch. And for those of you that don't know it, an elevator pitch should be the time it takes you to stand on one leg and no more. So probably 20 to 30 seconds whilst you're bumping into someone in an elevator. So who you are, what you do, and hopefully there's someone, then I can know them and recruit them for you. When I'm not meeting them, I'm presenting this, you know, maybe something interesting about yourself. You're trying to grab their attention. It's attention seeking. And for people that don't like it, well, you're probably not in the right business. You know, you probably don't want a LinkedIn profile as much as anything. Your call to action. Please contact me, discuss your next career steps, or now, okay, we've put this from my perspective as a recruiter, because it would be slightly false to have one for you guys. But what you can do is say open to new opportunities, or interested in, you know, making a move into the interim market, whatever you might be thinking. And other things you think there, again, Aira or, you know, or Katie, feel free to drop in what you've seen with people's profiles. Aira?
Sort of, I think a call to action, it needs to be stronger than open to new opportunities. That's what I tend to see a lot. But I think, as you said, like specifying what opportunities you're interested in does help us sort of target you easier as a potential candidate for a role. So I'd kind of say sort of maybe what type of size company, etc., you're looking for as well.
I know that some people have said, but hang on, if I'm in a job, how do I express the fact that I'm looking for another job? You know, what's the best way for me to do it? And there's a way that, you know, you can put the wording in there, say, I've experienced this, experienced that, would welcome to do this in the future. And actually, it's not going to upset your current employer, because if you put it delicately, politically correctly, people will still reach out to you. You know, private message you, oh, we've got this job, da, 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 as long as they know that there is opportunity there. So, bits, we've done the headline briefly, done your summary shine. We're getting to the other ones, which are a bit more fun. Customizing your URL. And people are like, what's that? Well, that's the bit right at the top, which might say Aira Canon 1234712. Says nothing about Aira. Aira, what is yours? Is Treasury Recruiter, isn't it? Or something like that?
I think it's Aira Canon Treasury Recruitment or something along those lines. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's got recruitment, treasury, and my name.
And
So
you've got similar, haven't you, Katie?
I have, yeah.
And again, what these do is these, you know, they're easier to remember, and people will actually, you know, copy and paste. When you see that on, you know, when you're connecting with someone, oh, connect with me, you know, I'm MR Treasury Recruitment, Mr. Treasury Recruitment. You know, it's a bit corny, but guess what? People get it, and that's what we are. So actually, they know to come to us. Having a photo. Here we go. Here's the fun section. When you have a photo, oh my goodness, why bother? Now, I will actually put this up. I meant to do it last week, so I still need to do this. Some people, unless you're a first connection to someone, you don't see someone's photo, and it's in privacy settings. Well, actually, I might do a video post about it. Actually, I'll record it. What happens is, if you're a second-tier connection, you only see a grey circle, and it's actually really off-putting. You're 21 times more likely, if you've got a photo, 36 times more likely to receive a message. Now, I think that messaging thing is great, although I would say, I don't know about everybody else, in this lockdown or post-lockdown, I'm getting two terrible sales messages a day at the moment. It's like, it's dead huge. But you might get for that 3 or 4 really good, you know, messages you want to hear. But make it an appropriate photo. What do we mean by that? Well, make sure that it's a business one, present it the way you want to, and it's the starting of your personal brand. So make it something you want to be seen by. And again, I say an appropriate photo. Now, these, what you can see now, are real photos, but they were recreated by me because we didn't want to, well, go to court for libel, stroke slander, or whatever you might call it, for terrible photoage. There you go. Loving those. That's right. So that selfie is a recreation of someone's. The jailbird, we saw a guy. I've got the original URLs. I can send you to their pictures. And I just couldn't believe it was on there. He looked so serious. He was terrible. There you go. The thinker. There you go. That's the one. The Joker. Right. That photo should only be on Facebook. And that's one of the other reasons why I don't get my Cronenberg photos on Facebook, because I don't want to get in trouble. Moving onwards. Let's show the grid view. So I'm just looking on here. So who we got next? So the arty pose. And these have been some real life photos. I couldn't believe they were on there. Creepy arty pose. That was actually from an art director. That was actually on his LinkedIn profile. We were just like, yeah, it might be good for art, mate, but not for real life. It was just horrendous. And then we move on to friendly, approachable, professional. So just make it something that actually reaches out to people. Just going back, I'm just going to jump back to these. There is one here, I said it to on a previous group. We couldn't actually show it because discovered this photo, terrible photo. The guy was turning around, he was kissing a little toy, some children's toy on his shoulder, and obviously a Christmas party or something else. And we decided we couldn't even recreate the photo. The reason being, he was the head of Treasury for a large French multinational company. We thought, do you know what, we can't do that, because if I ever get any business from him and he saw this on this presentation, he would, you know, go, hang on, that's me. Since then, actually, I don't know if he's got back to him, he's changed his photo, thank goodness. But anyway, there you go. So This is the harder bit. This is becoming a writer. It links into a little bit about what Katie said last week, but it's actually a shorter, more summarized version of your CV. But I think it's more intense than your CV, and it's more of the sales piece. So it's your top 3 achievements a lot of the time. So you're becoming a writer. What you want to do is show your knowledge, passion, be concise about what you're doing, target your audience. So let's describe a couple of things. Let's brainstorm just a couple of ones. Katie and anybody else, feel free to jump in as well. Katie, you can see it on full screen, maybe on yours. So what have you seen, Ava?
Sometimes I've seen people kind of say if they're passionate about sports, but they want to get a job in Treasury. That doesn't really work for me if you're kind of emphasising that. I think if you show your passion sort of maybe within Treasury, like there's an element of Treasury you really enjoy, sort of maybe perhaps you want to develop your Treasury career, sort of what elements do you feel you need development on, kind of pop all that in there. And sort of the call to action is very important because it's getting our attention and it's going to draw us to sort of want to connect with you and want to get to know a little bit more about you. But don't be too waffly. Some people's paragraphs are very, very long and you have to click see more. And a lot of the time I tend to not really want to see more. It's just I want something sharp, snappy that I can see straight away.
It's got to be clean and simple, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It does, and also very direct about a good way to do this, I find a lot of time, is problem solution. I don't know if we go on the next slides. No, we'll come back to is problem solution idea. So take 3 problems you've been faced with over the past 3 years in your Treasury job or jobs, and write them in there. Now, so if you're the head of cash management, head of global cash management for a retailer, God, what the last 6 months must have been interesting as a good example. So how have you dealt with that challenge? How have you addressed it? What steps have you taken? What have you achieved? So I've been head of cash management for 2 years at XYZ retailer. We've reorganized this, resulting in the saving of this. And in the future, we'll be implementing this cash management system or this supply chain finance system. Tell people very directly what you've done, what you've achieved, what money you've saved. What difference have you made? Because otherwise, why bother? It's just...
It does go back to what we did on the CV last week in terms of achievements. And I think also when you... also, one of the things I wanted to add to be conscious of is the job titles that you put. Because a lot of businesses, you have weird and wonderful job titles that don't necessarily have the word Treasury in it. So you've got to remember that when people are searching for people with your expertise, one of the most common ways of searching is on job titles. So what if you don't have a bog standard job title, I would suggest that you put the closest to it and then have what it is in your company terms underneath or in brackets.
I think also what you can do, there's no reason why. I've had it before with a couple of candidates when I moved them, they've moved roles. One, for instance, was the head of international treasury. I want to be the international treasurer. Now, he couldn't get that title from the company because it didn't fit within their parameters. They were quite strict over some of the titles they gave. But actually on his LinkedIn profile, he put international treasurer. So he could be seen to be the international treasurer. No one was bothered about it. No one complained. His business card said head of international treasury. It was just, an internally but he just put international treasurer. So he knew how he wanted to be, thought about, as it were. Like, keep to time. So growing your connections. Interesting one here. People go onto LinkedIn and they don't necessarily actually start networking. And we've said this before. They said, oh, well, I'm not looking for a job and things. It's a professional networking site. It's not a job recruitment site. Yes, that might come out later, but it's a networking site where you will gain so much by having a great network. We talk about 10 times your age. I think it's quite a nice one. 500 plus connections, then you don't know how many people you can't show off about how many people you've got. The key thing is, so again, people have said, well, is it that important? I said, look, you're looking at a new treasury management system. They're like, oh, yeah. I said, how many people are you connected to? They went, 30. I said, so great. So you go out to your network of 30 people. I'm looking at using a new treasury management system, IT2. What do you guys think? No, we don't use it. We don't use it. Oh, boom. You know, pretty soon it doesn't help. You get 300 people, you can actually go out to that network. Guys, I'm looking at it. Immediately you've got this free professional network that can help you, that, you know, or you might be looking for a new role because of COVID, or you might be, you know, there are other things as well. You might want to be helping someone. I mean, other things you've seen, ladies, Katie, you know, give out power of having that network.
I know a few of my candidates have sort of, the more sort of treasury manager, senior treasury manager, they've used LinkedIn to connect with banks. So they've kind of reached out to the connection, said, what banks are you using for XYZ? They're getting sort of really good feedback, and that's the way that they're using their network as well, which is quite different, I suppose. And with COVID, I think that could enhance and become more normal, with interactions being more over the internet rather than face to face.
And one of the things here, I just got this, will the connection add value? This is a key thing. Obviously, current colleagues you want to connect with, former colleagues, great to grow, you know, and people you might admire. One of the ones here, someone in the bottom left, someone you met at a networking event. One thing I would say is you go to a conference, you go to Eurofinance, go to ACT or whatever else, and we can talk about how the power and why you want to make a connection and testimonials in a minute. But when you do, what I would suggest you do is you meet someone, you have something in common with them. When they walk off, just grab a pen, scribble down a couple of notes on their business card or whatever about who they are or why do you want to connect with them? Because otherwise you might meet over the course of 3 days, 40, 50 people, and you're thinking, hang on, who was that guy again? And when they're connecting to you, is a good way to say, we were talking about IT2. We were talking about the new way that you're going to implement Swift. You know, what do you know, oh, could we connect? People will really like that. And again, that's going to give you a bigger, obviously, recruiters, and it might be someone you want to work with. You know, that's one of the key things as well. Not through us. You know, a lot of people get jobs through networking as well. Katie, anything to add there? Or
no, I just think it's nowadays it's about adding it. They become your community where you can. It's a forum for sharing ideas as well as asking advice and sort of promoting yourself as well. So it's always good to connect with as many people as relevant people as you can.
And this, here you go, here, personalizing your message. That, as I said, why there's a reason to connect. And actually think about that. Don't just connect randomly to everybody you meet. You might go to those conferences, you know, only if you're going to add value to their network and they add value to yours. If someone wants to reach out and connect to you and you say no, I ignore 2 or 3 sales messages a day at the moment. I saw an interesting one over the weekend. American CFO reached out to connect to me, lady. I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And it was just terrible. So it was reach out to connect. Immediately, you know, 2 days later, a cold email. Oh, we help entrepreneurs like you do your accounting and sales and blah, blah, blah. And I actually wrote back to her, I said, connect. Oh, cold sales message. Oh, result, deconnect, step 3. It was just really disappointing because I thought, come on, you're a CFO, you're better than that. But I don't want it because I don't want to be sold to all the time. So, you know, you don't have to connect to people and they don't, unless you choose to, as I did, you know, write back to them. So nurture your network, share content, do things with LinkedIn. Don't just check in on there once a month. There are interesting things on there. Update your profile, acknowledge a change of status. Someone's making a move or they've been at a certain time of things. Some of the stuff on LinkedIn is a little bit corny, we know, but some of the stuff is actually quite insightful. And if you think there is something that you can also add content, if you read a decent book and you say, oh, actually that crosses over with that, guys, that can cause some really good, you know, content to come to, you know, like, and you can have some really good conversations. You know, I've connected now with actually some, you know, large keynote speakers. You know, Marcus Sheridan springs to mind, great guy in the US. And actually now we're starting to talk about maybe doing things together and potentially, well, this year we would have actually met up, you know, and he's a global keynote speaker and it would be great to meet him to understand. He talks about marketing, talks about LinkedIn and everything else. So, you know, really help with your network and stuff. Anything to add, ladies? No. You're too hot. It's 34 degrees in your house and you're melting. I can see that's fine. Move on. Right, be a groupie. Again, Katie, I don't know if there are any chats, any questions coming through, or everyone's asleep.
No, everybody's too hot.
Okay, fair enough. We'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, be a groupie. What does that mean? It's okay. Groups are one of the most underrated areas of LinkedIn, but you can still join them. They are worth our Treasury Recruitment Group. We do actually not just share jobs, but we actually share our content. We share videos. We've got a load of videos coming up for the end of this year. We've got a series of videos about about your CV, but also loads of other things about networking, about writing job descriptions, and everything else. And that's where you'll find them. So look up groups, look up Treasury groups and stuff like that. Finally, recommendations. So asking for recommendations. Now, what have we got? Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about this just for a moment. I always make the joke when I go to conferences about Amazon. And I say to people, look, how many, I say to the audience, and people said, oh, recommendations, do you think they work? And a few people, hands go up, oh, a little bit maybe, a little bit might. I know that they work. We actually know they work quite easily. Reason being, well, when you go on Amazon and you look at different things, how many times do you actually look at the star ratings and look at some of the things that people have done? I mean, a lot of people say, oh yeah, I've looked at those. I said, great. Have you actually met those people? And people are like, no, never. I said, so you're trusting the word of a complete stranger? Oh yes. Why? Because people believe people. And actually, if they can make a recommendation, and what I would say to you again is, speak to someone that not is a colleague and say, oh, can you recommend me for my LinkedIn profile? It's someone you worked with or worked for. So that is, if you've worked for them, what were you like as an employee? And they can say, oh yeah, very good when you're coming up and stuff like that. That will give for future employers an explanation. And employees, the flip side of that, if what you were like as a boss, because that's what people are going to want to know about as well. So final bits, final action points, done. Now I'm going to go back.
I've got some questions.
Finally, so
yes,
go for it.
So we've got Ian and Jonathan also wanted to know, do we recommend LinkedIn Premium?
Which product? I would say
the premium way. Yeah.
There's various levels. Me as a recruiter, and again, Katie and Ara, we have just the LinkedIn, not basic, but the one we get like 15 emails a month, because there's actually not much more than that you need, really. Would you say the same? I mean, we use it very effectively.
Yeah.
I don't think there's sometimes business elite and, they want to charge you 50, 90 quid a month. I definitely wouldn't go
I think the premium is the best one to have after the basic. I mean, it depends what you want to use it for and how often you're on it. But I know, as Mike said, from our perspective, we're on the premium one, and that gives us 15 emails a month. And actually what you see from that is if you get a response back, you then get an in-mail added on. So actually, on average, on a monthly basis, I've got sort of 40 odd in-mails. So it just gets you to see more people.
I've got a question.
You also see people viewing your profile as well with premium. So sort of you can see who's viewed more, whereas sort of with the basic one, I don't think you can see everyone that's viewed your profile as well.
Jonathan's asked a question about he often receives invitations from recruiters who he's not heard of. He's heard of us, so it's all right, we can connect. But that aside, whether he should actually, is it them just trying to pose as helping and then trying to gain access to his network? There's a couple of things there. Number one, if you feel that recruiter might have access to roles or opportunities that might interest you, then yes, definitely connect to them. But what you can do is go into your settings on LinkedIn. It's the 3 dots on the top right of your screen. And all you need to do on there is not show your connections. And so basically when they want to see who you're connected to, you can just switch that off very quickly and easily. I do that myself. I have it switched off. Sometimes I do connect to recruiters, generally not other Treasury recruiters, but even finance recruiters. And being the person I am, I'm quite defensive of my network. I want to keep it as mine. So I have mine switched off. so I don't want other people to know they're only one step away from some of that, because we've got quite a few global treasurers. So, okay. Yeah. Which one?
There's another question about basically the difference that separates the CV versus your LinkedIn profile.
Will you talk about what you think, and I'll talk about mine, because mine will be right. But go on.
As I've said on the call and last week, I think it's very much, there is some similarity. I think what you're doing is making sure you're picking out your top 3 achievements where actually you are going to catch somebody's eye and actually realize where you've added that value that you can add to someone else's business.
Yeah. And I think also on a CV, it's a much more documentary type approach. It's a more detailed approach where you're explaining a lot more about yourself and about maybe your career path. On a LinkedIn profile is a sales page. That's what it's about. It's to sell yourself and to build up a professional network. And that professional network has amazing power, because it can, I was the keynote speaker last year in Oslo, in Copenhagen rather. Why? It was Oslo. Yeah, so I did a lot of Nordic countries last year. But one of the reasons, because the guy went on my LinkedIn profile, he saw that what I did. He then saw, oh, hang on, he does a podcast. He saw some actually local conferences, so local people I've spoken to in Finland and a couple of other ones. And they were like, oh my God. And I became the keynote speaker, all from seeing that on my LinkedIn profile. And again, I think people asked last week, should they put actually about speaking engagements, some of the times they've been at Eurofinance? And yes, I would say do, but just, if you've done 7 technology ones, don't list them all. Just perhaps give, I'm seen as an expert in blockchain, supply chain finance. I've given 3 speeches about this and and implementation. Yes. So again,
then there is about whether or not there seems to be a move from having moving away from written posts to having videos instead. So Ian wondered, what's your view for a short video as an elevator pitch?
I think we may have touched on this before. I think if it's done really well, which is really tough, I would say, to not make it look cheesy about, hi, I'm Ian, I'm your next super treasury manager, really, if you notice on my channel, if you've given a speech, Ian, I'm sure either an internal or external conference, we have little snippets of a lot of the conferences I've spoken at, and it's great because the traction it gets, because people go, oh, hang on, that's a solution, I'm interested in that. The problem is, as soon as you do a video that's about you, it's a video about you. It's not about them. And when someone comes to your LinkedIn profile, they want to see, are you going to be a solution for their problems? That paracetamol thing we talked about last week. What you want to demonstrate, you might have videos on there, but I give videos about LinkedIn, about writing your CV, about how to find your next treasurer. I'm trying to show how we can be the solution to the problems of our clients. So that if they're a CFO and they go, hang on, which treasurers does this guy know? Well, actually, he knows Scott Carbon, he knows John Clancy, he knows Ian Tip. I know all you guys, got to know you, John Fulton even, I could even place John Fulton. This would be a great one. But joking aside, this is what I mean, is that actually we've got access to some of the best treasury talent, including John Fulton. Wouldn't you say, John?
I'd argue that one, Mike.
Well, that's it, but it's having that network. It's having some of those good guys out there.
Yeah.
I'll jump into the next one, Katie, about how effective LinkedIn learning courses do they add to, are there any treasury related? Because I haven't seen any treasury courses. Have you seen any?
No.
I've seen some quite good ones. Again, I don't know if they're still free. If they're still free, jump on them. I would never be bothered about whether someone had done them. Presentation course, I know got some really good ones. I know they've got some good filming ones, but I haven't really seen those. So, jumping on, a small number can potentially be viewed. Yeah, just get on with connecting. A couple of people here, I'm saying, just if you've got small connections, you want to build a powerful network because you will see more relevant content as well in the feed. That's one of the things that I would say. If you look at your feed at the moment, and that's the, you know, daily feed or hourly feed of news that you get to see about different stories, about opportunities, about different things happening. I think that's one of the, you know, powerful things as well.
Yeah.
That's a great description. Sorry, Simha said, would it be fair to consider your LinkedIn profile a commercial for your skills? Simha, that's blooming brilliant. Yeah, where are you on here? Yes, there you go. Right, there you go, Simha. Good lad. That's exactly what it is. It's a commercial for you. And it, you know, and without being too corny, sell yourself. Other things you think, Ira and Katie, that haven't perhaps brought up so far about the profile?
I don't think so. I think you covered most of it.
Ira, you go.
It wasn't necessarily about the profile, it was more sort of what you were saying about the news feed. And that if there is something interesting that you see on the news feed, sort of somebody's written an article about a Treasury system that you've used, do comment on it, because then your name will kind of be shared to a broader range of people. And then you might develop new connections through that as well.
Right.
But only sort of if you've got something relevant to say, and that it just to kind of show your knowledge as well.
Katie?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Ira that it's always good to comment and like and share in terms of the news feed. I think the bigger the connections you have, as you said, it's more relevant. In terms of groups as well, you see a lot of content, and there's a lot of forums for questions that get answered as well. So yeah, no, definitely, I think the bigger your network, the more value you'll find in it.
One of the things on there here, John's asked about, should the LinkedIn description of prior roles be even more succinct, brief than the CV? Yes, it should. But, and again, actually, one of the things that you'll find, we talked about this last week about an ATS, which for those guys that you know about it, great, but it's an applicant tracking system. So this is where a system, you know, looks through, scours a number of CVs, tries to find people, relevancy, you know, how many times they mention Treasury, how many times they mention cash management, how many times FX and stuff. And the higher you score, the higher you go to the pecking order, if you like. In actual fact, on LinkedIn, there are, you know, and you might find this, it's, you know, obviously Treasury is a more niche area, but what you may find is that you get contacted more often if you mention, you know, your top skills areas. And that might be foreign exchange, that might be cash management. The flip side of that, just to put in perspective, so I did a big hour-long one-to-one session with someone the other day, quite intense, and we talked a lot about their summary section. And their summary section was so busy, you know, number one, I couldn't read it. So it was difficult. Now, it might have scored highly on the ATSs, but actually, as a recruiter, and I know that, you know, when I speak to a number of other recruiters, when they look at different things, they're scanning through different areas, aren't they? And they're boom, 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 boom. So then they're not going to see that. What I think it could have done is been laid out much better. And again, it can be cash management, what you know, learned or done. FX, what sort of, you know, what size of FX deals and what achievements you've done. You know, what have you brought to the fore? And that's what you put in there. Make it readable. You know, if it's like, it's a bit like an extended, you know, the bit, you know, when you read a novel on the back jacket, you know, it's telling you about this person. It's telling you about why you should buy this book off the shelf. Well, it's exactly the same for this. It's why you should connect to this person, and it's why they might approach you about this next global treasurer opportunity or this next international treasury manager opportunity. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to look at that LinkedIn profile, sit in their shoes and go, right, this is what I should have written on there, sort of thing. Do you think, guys, good summary?
Yeah, that's a very good summary.
Yeah,
Definitely the book bit.
yeah, I'm going to use that in the future, I think.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's much else really on there, isn't there? We've gone through photos, have your summary. One of the other things, if you do want to be more openly connected, do put in there your email address and your contact number. That does actually make it a lot easier rather than, you know, people. If you don't want it on there and you're not even in connection mode, if that's the right way to put it, you can change your button from connect to follow. So people might just follow you. You might have followers, a good way of building it. But generally, I've always left mine on connect because then I want to choose if I want that person to see my content, to be a first connection and stuff like that. A couple of other bits. Amanda asked earlier about how do you update your URL. What I'll do is I'll get together a couple. We've got some actually information, which some short videos, which will connect to people to show how to amend your URL, how to not have the grey box, grey circle rather. We'll get those sent out to you guys as well in the next week or so. So you can make sure you've got the right settings. Doing it now is a bit too detailed. It's basically you go up to your 3 dots, different bits of the private setting. It does change sometimes with LinkedIn because LinkedIn is a pain in the butt. They do make these changes. We don't sometimes know why. If you want to know a lot more about, I'll come back to this, Carol. If there is something, what's the word? Yeah, everything changes on LinkedIn quite regularly. So, it does change, and, the minute I write it, it changes the following week. This Forbes article, Carol said, indicating to never put looking for work in headline. Yeah, Laura Peace and Green banners. What are my thoughts? Well, what they've done, LinkedIn, this refers to, if you look at lots of people in this COVID crisis with around their photo, you can switch on a little green circle around yourself which says looking for work. So that's actually to try and again get people to pop out of their when you're scouring, when recruiters, resources are trying to find people for their jobs, as they're scrolling through, is to try and find those people that are actively looking for jobs. So actually that's a different way. I think Forbes are out of date, I would say, for that. I think in this COVID era, I think if people are actively looking and need a job, so what? They need a job. Get the more that you can do out there. There are also different programs. I'm trying to think. I think it was Canva, where we used to at one stage have a little circle around our pictures. I got rid of it. I just thought it was a bit corny. It just looked a bit. It does work though, apparently. Like with someone used to have a little. I remember a woman had a red circle around hers, and she said it increased her connection rate by 10 times, or 10%. And I thought, do you know what? I'm not bothered, sort of thing. A couple more. Some of these are coming out. In your headline, do you put current role or role you're aspiring to? I would say that you could have both. It can be treasury manager. Go on, Katie, you say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you can have both. You can say what you're doing and in the future where you want to get to.
Yeah. Just asked, I won't name and shame this person because of their age, but they're saying in their Gmail address, they've got their number on it and stuff like that. Should they put that as a contact number because they're going to guess what age you might be? Well, tell you what, it's not that hard because I can see when you finish school and I can count. And also I can usually see your photo and I can still count your grey hairs. Roughly. So I wouldn't actually worry. People, we always get, people have put me, said no because I'm too experienced and that I'm not, that's why they're not, if they're not going to go for you, they're not going to go for you. Tough. You're too experienced. It's not they're counting age against you. It's because they don't think there's enough runway in this job. A lot of jobs in Treasury are operational by their very nature. And so there is only a certain amount of runway in the future and they're worried you're going to get bored. And if you're going to take a big step back, that's why. It's not they're particularly being ageist. If you be, they're really ageist against it. They're not. They're actually taking a wise decision because if you do go in there and you are bored out of your brain in the next 6 months, they've made a mistake and you've just got frustrated. No, you might not, but it's one of those things. Right. Lovely people. What's next week? Next week is interviewing.
Yeah.
Like this, isn't it? Interviewing and stuff like that. Someone coming on, So I'm just very quick. Tell you what. I'll come back to. I'll answer some more individual questions later, for Mr. Shirley and a couple of others because I think I want to wrap up. But next week is virtual interviewing, and it's about interviewing, about physical interviewing as well. Tips and tricks. You'll get some stupid video bits from me. Sorry about that. We can't have everything. And then the week after is effective recruitment strategy week, isn't it? So 2 more lovely weeks. All good? living the dream. Everyone's too hot. Everyone go have a beer or hot, cold drink or whatever you want to drink.
Yeah.
Seven more. All right, Cannon. See you soon, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.